Hello, viewers. It's another Monday morning again, and I want to welcome you to Corporate Ethics with Ayodele Adebayo, of course, Mr. Ideation. I trust you've been enjoying your long holiday, of course, from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and of course, today as well. Anyway, I trust you would maximize this holiday towards, a better you once you resume work tomorrow. But once again, I want to welcome you to Corporate Ethics. Today we have something very important and very special. We started, of course, for the past 2, 3 weeks, and we've been looking into communications at workplace. And of course, you understand that our goal at Corporate Ethics is to ensure that these workplace rules becomes much more relatable to you in your work, within what you do, in your offices, so that you can bring out the best that you are endowed or empowered to bring. And today we'll be looking into communications at workplace further. And I won't be the only one anyway to look into that. Today I have a guest with me that will be looking into that together. But before I introduce my guest to you, I would like us to go for a short break, and we'll be right back after that. We'll get into the middle of what we have to do today. Thank you. Stay tuned. All right, thank you. Welcome back. This is Corporate Ethics with Mr. Ayodele Adebayo, of course, Mr. Ideation. I beg your pardon. Today we're looking into workplace communications, and like we've started looking into that since the last 2, 3 weeks. And today with me, I have a very good friend of mine, and of course, not just a friend, but of course, an expert. When it comes to workplace. Workplace effectiveness, career success, and of course, all you could ever think of, within the workplace or within the corporate world. So today we have with us, of course, popularly known as Dr. Triple A, of course, the person of Adeniyi Atiba. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. It's good to be here.
Thank you so
Glad
much.
to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming around.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. We're looking at, this is corporate ethics. And what we'll do is we try to make sure that these workplace rules become much more relatable to people, so that we can work towards the things we should work towards within the workplace, and on the long run, so that we can foster productivity, because productivity is the main reason why we're why we are in business. If we're not achieving productivity, then it will, and there are workplace rules that upholds the reality of productivity,
yes,
within the workplace.
Yes.
And one of them is communication. So we're looking at it, communication at workplace. Now, communication at workplace, what will you have to say about communication at workplace vis-a-vis communication outside workplace?
Okay, of course, communication is a very model. The model that I use is the model of the, we call it the BI triangle.
Okay.
That's a model that I mostly use. It was propounded by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
And when you look at that model, of course, you look at design of the product, you look at registration or legal aspects, you look at the issue of cash flow, and communication is mentioned, and then, of course, systems. Communication, like you rightly said, is broken into two. We have both the internal communication, and then, of course, the outside, external communication. And the one that we are looking at especially is the internal that you're talking about, which is in and within the workplace. And when it comes to that aspect, it's very critical to understand that most bosses, or let me say most CEOs or MDs, don't remember that their own employee, that they're actually their first customers.
That's true.
Because we have first internal customers before we have external customers.
Okay.
And then, whether we like it or not, the same level of dedication and excellence that is required to communicate to people outside the organization is required both inside the organization. So if you are the MD CEO of an organization, there should be a process where you can pass across information, run it down, the hierarchy in the organization, to pass the requisite, the most important and critical information. For example, say your organization is is a manufacturing concern,
Yeah.
and you are trying to sell or market, you set a target of about, say, 10 billion naira in a particular year. How do you communicate that down the line so that the man, will say the person, not the least anyways, because when we look at every we should look at every staff as a customer. So we're not looking at them as the least customer. There's nothing like that. Everybody is a customer. All right, so you're passing. How do you get the information to the last customer? Let me use that word like that. Not the least customer, the last customer. How do you get information? Those are the things that the board of directors or the CEO needs to really, make up their mind on. How do you do that? Are you going to pass information at the managerial level and then allow the managers to go to their departments or units and actually pass down the information? There should be a particular design, a structure in each organization. There should be a way to decide how that information will filter, through. Are we going to use intercom? Are we going to use email? Are we going to use intranet?
Yeah.
How do we pass information? Do we need to do board meeting settings where we need to get people together in a room and then, tell them what exactly it is? But I believe that communication mostly has to do with the temperament or personality of the leader or the boss. Yeah, because if it's my kind of person, I would want to sit one-on-one with each of my staff and tell them exactly what my my expectations are. Because you don't demand from people what you don't already set before them. You're not to expect something that you have not already, set as a standard. All right. So, but if I communicate to them, say, this is what I'm expecting of you, then I have the right to put in an appraisal structure and say, you know what, I told you to do this. I said this. These are the goals of our organization. It was well communicated to you. And most times we need to even sit down and ask people, do you understand these things? Gone are the days when we just write a letter or we send an email.
Yeah.
I think leadership, business leadership should be more, it should be a sort of a hybrid of both the formal and informal. Okay, so when we're doing the letters, when we're doing the emails, when we're doing all that, doing the calls, doing the text messages, and now we even got business WhatsApp. And in some organizations, we even some people use WhatsApp to actually send information. You have a group and then they talk and all that. Even with that, there should still be a measure of inviting somebody into your office. It shows them that you care. Some time ago, I read about the CEO of PepsiCo, who would relate across board with each of the staff. And there are many, you can imagine.
Wow. If I get you right now, it means now that communication in workplace is actually should be streamlined in two places. Let's say maybe we have a formal communication and an informal communication that has to go, side by side within the organization.
Yes, it should be.
And sometimes, most of the time, I think most of the time when it comes to the formal communication, once there are standards and rules on ground, most of the time it always looks like a straight jacketed thing, and it's worked out fine. But I think where most of the time the issue comes in is the informal communication.
Yes, exactly.
Where most of the time people bring in their personalities, import their emotions, import some other things, and now in a situation like this, now if in an organization, should the leader, should the manager, should the employer now consider less the personality of his or her co-workers in setting up formal communication rules, or should it just overlook it and just come up with his or her own plan?
That's why, I personally believe that every organization, like I said, number one, I've said number one, which is it's most of the communication structures or framework or the procedure policies are actually determined by the leader, the personality of the leader, the person of the leader. But most times also, I believe too, that it should be a customized thing. Customized in the sense that, look at your organization. What kind of organization are you running? That should determine to a large extent the kind of communication structure you want to run. So if we're like a company like Pizza is very informal, very, very informal. You see them, in fact, when you check the design of Pizza, you see things like cushions, you see playgrounds, you see stuff. Why? Because the whole environment is meant, the culture the first thing on the mind of an employee or Pixar is creativity. So everywhere is, you don't see the plain old settings where everything is so formal. You have a desk, you have no, you don't see all that.
Too serious.
You see, too serious sort of. Well, you see chairs, you see couches, you see all sorts of, you see slides in a workplace for that matter.
That's true.
Why? Because they're trying to communicate with the younger audience. With that, those are the kids. And if you don't think like them, you cannot create products for them like that. Okay, so the organization determines how it is. The same way a programming organization, and I don't want to mention names now this time, but let me use a standard one. Let's just say a place where they do programming. You see a desk, you see big screens where they have to do coding and all those things and all that. That's the major thing there. Are they concerned about suits and ties? No, they're not. They probably put on their shirts and their jeans because that's how it works. Within our organization, the culture establishes the communication style. The culture. What's the culture? The culture there determines the communication style. So how we're going to communicate is based on our values, and that value influences our culture. And that culture also, that's the foundation for any communication style.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Now, most of the time, I've always said that when people have issues about respect or disrespect at workplace, most of the time it's always around communication. Most of the time, it's always around communication. Somebody might say, okay, probably maybe the gestures that actually follows what is being said.
Okay.
You understand sometimes, and some of this, of course, part of informal anyway. But then, how can we, develop this aspect? Because we so far since the last 3 weeks, we've been running with a particular statement made by one of our guests here that whenever there is communication breakdown, there will be operational breakdown. So how can we work towards, effective communication such that it will not affect the operational, the operations, of the workplace, so that at least everything will go on.
Beautiful. Now, for that to be very effective, for communication to be such that it boosts the performance level or the productivity of the workplace, I believe that people's emotions, people's person should be put into consideration.
Okay.
It's very important. While we're not trying to raise lazy, we're not allowing for lazy work staff, we're not giving them too much of creating some sort of laxity in their attitude, and we're not trying to make them feel, you know what, this is your family house. And, you can do it the way you want.
That's true.
Basically, there should be some laid down rules. In the workplace, this is what we do. This is the time you should resume. This is that. This is what we call in the public sector. We call those kind of departments. We call them the appointment, promotion, and discipline.
Okay.
What they do is, of course, that's the function of an HR department. There should be guidelines for interaction. The way you move, the way you do things, when you come in, what you do with your work, what you do. If you do this wrong, this is the punishment. If you do this right, this is the reward. That is very critical. And it will affect how people will take communication from you. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So that's a major basis for anything in any organization. So if I'm going to say if we're in an organization, and I'm expecting that my staff will be very receptive to the information I'm trying to pass to them. I'm trying to motivate them. I'm trying to do that. Then I have to be very sensitive to them. One of the things that we're looking at these days is coaching should be brought into the organization. Because as a leader, you don't just go ahead and just give them work to do. You actually put them in conditions where you monitor what they're doing.
That's true.
Check them out. Look at them. Are they delivering? What are the factors affecting their productivity? We ask these questions and we trash it out. And it has to do with family life, because sometimes their home stuff, and I'm very, very, very particular about this. Somebody is having a terrible time in their marriage, it will reflect in the workplace.
Definitely.
There's no way it will not reflect in the work. So we go beyond that to actually sometimes, I saw something that really, really blew my mind. I saw an organization that's a high-level performance organization. I mean, they're doing very well there. Those guys it's a capital investment organization. And I saw this guy having a chat with a physiotherapist,
Okay.
you know, and no, sorry, with a psychologist in
Okay.
the office.
Okay.
They have an internal shrink
Okay.
in the office, and she was talking to him, and she said, and he was complaining that he's had a poor performance in the year, and she, and you know, and she looked at him and said, you know what your problem is? Your problem is you don't know who you are.
Wow.
And so she was just telling him, boosting him up, and she told him, you know what? You're a Navy SEAL. Telling me you're a Navy SEAL. And you know what? The SEAL don't make mistakes. They recruit the best. You are the best.
Wow.
So get out there. Get in your head. How much did you make last year? This guy said 17 billion. That's how much I bought him. Touch your heart and say 17 billion. The guy said 17 billion. Say it again, 17 billion. He said, that's who you are. That's what you're what. You are the best of the best. You are an elite force. You're a super soldier. So what do you think you can do? The guy said, you know what? I know what to do. Got up and brought in 35 billion.
Wow.
One contract. That's what happens. How do you get your staff to be at the top? You don't threaten them. In management, we have two kinds of styles. We have what we call the carrot system. We have the cane system.
Yeah.
Carrot, you motivate to get the performance. The other one, you cane. You threaten them.
Yeah.
You if you don't come to work early, I'm going to deduct 5,000 naira from your salary. If you don't do this, we will slash your salary to half. That's a cane method.
Yeah.
Most times that actually affects the psyche of the staff.
Yeah, that's true.
But when you do a carrot method, most of the time, well, some people will say, well, that if it doesn't work that way, some people need cane, some people need carrot. Either way.
Or you use the two at the same time.
Use the two. I said that, but I believe coaching would actually balance this out.
Yeah.
Balance it out. Find out what the root problem is. Some people can't sell because while they were young, they were abused. You won't believe it.
Yeah.
The lady cannot simply approach a man to actually sell anything because every time she sees a big man, she sees remembers the picture of the abuse she had. Now, so as a coach, you sit down with the person, trash it, and find out what the root cause is. Tell them, you know what, not all men are bad men. Trash it out, find out the root cause. She's back up on top, and she goes to get the job done. So communication has to do with, I believe it should be a personal thing. Reach to them that way, reach out to them one-on-one, and then we can actually get the best of them in the organization.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Tripoli. Now, there's something within the discipline of emotional intelligence, and it's a philosophy, and one of the philosophies that emotional intelligence upholds is that nothing means anything except the meaning you give to it. Now, and sometimes, so if we are to apply this within communication, now in communication, it is said that communication is incomplete until there is feedback.
True.
And there can be feedback until there can be accurate feedback until there is, accurate understanding. Until you understand exactly what the other person
is trying to say. Yeah.
Now, and in a way or the other, now we have so many, just like you said the other time, we have so many things going on in the minds of people.
Yes, sir.
Working in the workplace.
Yes.
And so sometimes, because of what had happened, or because of what is happening, or because of the circumstances that some people might be going through, some employees might be going through, so they tend to interpret, from the perspective, from their own perspective, from their, from the perspective of, the wounded person they have been or they are, trying to now, interpret the other person's message. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
Actually, yes.
Now, in a case like this, what would be your reaction if you see something like this as an employer of labor, and you realize that something like this is happening? What would you do?
Basically, one of the things I've discovered over the years, and I said this in a very, very light note. I said somewhere that there were some things that used to really, really, get me worked up back in the day, and what do you do when you prayed about something? It's not working. You prayed about it. You probably fasted about it. It's not being solved. But then little bit of information, little bit of knowledge changes everything.
Yeah.
So what happened to me? So I came across emotional intelligence,
Okay.
and I discovered that the more emotionally intelligent we all become, the better we are at
of course,
relating with people, understanding ourselves basically, which is the first, understanding our emotions, understand what gets us worked up, what makes us happy, what makes us sad, and all that. And, you know, and with that we can work with other people. We can now understand. You see, we don't understand ourselves. We can't understand people.
Yeah, that's true.
We can't understand that.
That's true.
You know, so as an employer of labor in that kind of setting in the workplace, it's just fair to get everybody coached. It's just fair to get everybody aware of emotional intelligence.
Okay.
Make them more emotionally intelligent. If our staff, no matter how much they are emotionally intelligent, it will help them a lot. An emotionally intelligent person will not take rejection personally. Rejection is not a personal thing.
Of course, yeah.
If somebody is rejecting, you know, the person is rejecting you, the person is rejecting either the product you're trying to sell, or the service, or the company you represent. Yeah. And all you have to do is not to take it personally, and then to establish the fears of the person, work at those fears, and then you want the customer.
That's true.
So, you know, so within the organization, if we can get every staff emotionally intelligent, it increases the level of their performance.
Wow, that's very, very true. That's very correct. So we need to work towards this, and in order for us to have adequate disposition of people's behavior towards productivity.
Yes, sir.
Because it is very, very, very important. Exactly. Now, within workplace, there are common communication mistakes that people make. Okay. And sometimes people don't even take note of some of these things. We try to run over some of them last edition, but within it there's one I think I've seen several times, and I think it's very, very rampant, and it's assumptions.
Oh.
Because you're trying to assume what the other person is trying to say.
That's true.
And on the long run, it affects or causes a breakdown within the operational processes of the job. So what do you have to say about this?
The first thing I would drop is to say that for one to be an effective communicator, we must first be effective listeners. If listening is an art, it's something we learn. Not everybody is a good listener. Some people have it as a natural ability, some people don't. Sometimes some of us talk a lot. So, you hear something, you want to talk immediately. But over time, what we practice, we become perfect in it.
That's true.
So if we practice listening means it's not just me looking at the person, looking at their mouth, or looking at just hearing the words that are coming. No, listening also involves me looking at the body language.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to establish a relationship between what the person is saying and the body language, and also trying to measure the pitch of the voice. These things are things that we can, of course, yes. The FBI, they're trained to do these things. Some security people are trained to do these things, to listen beyond the ordinary. What is this person really trying to say? You can pick it up by just effectively listening. People think that listening has to do with just the ears alone. No. It has to do with body movement. What you watch the person, you see how the person relates. Sometimes somebody is saying something that is the opposite of what their body language is saying.
That's true.
So these are things that we start to learn over time. So if we can do that, and you see, this is it. Somebody says, train your staff. Another person says, oh, he wants to make money off me.
That's true.
But if you trained your staff, even if they leave you, you have actually given them something. But what if they don't leave you? Because that's a fair.
Of course, yes.
What if they don't leave you? Yeah, they become an asset. It's better to have an intelligent staff than to have a stupid staff.
That's true. Very correct.
So we should train them to listen. We should train them to be emotionally intelligent. We should train them to understand customer service. You understand? How do you handle a customer? So a customer walks in and is shouting at you, and you're like, look, I'm not a very nice person.
Yes, of course. And you want to give it back,
give it back
to the customer.
Then that spoils the image of the organization. You know, whether we like it or not, that's how it works. So when we train these people, we should train them across board.
Yeah.
Train them. The communication becomes much more easier when people are patient enough to listen to what is being said.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow.
Yes.
I love the aspect of that listening, because listening has become like the nucleus part of communication. In fact, because most of the time, if you don't listen attentively, how would you be able to understand what is being said? And I've said in listening is not just looking. It is, I mean, being attentive, paying attention to, I mean, almost all the details.
Yes, sir.
What is being said,
yes, sir.
how it's being said,
yes, sir.
You know, the gestures around it, and several other things. Anyway, I know we will have much more things to say
yes,
around listening,
okay.
But for the purpose of those who are listening, I want you to just please let me give them, I mean, like a final advice,
okay,
as far as communication is concerned,
okay,
before we round up.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, like I like to call people, it's just very important that in communication we should communicate. I believe that if you communicate with an agenda of actually helping out the other person, if you have that at the back of your mind, then communication becomes more easier. You're communicating not because you want your views to just be expressed, but you want yourself and the other person to have a win-win situation.
Yeah.
If you have that at the bottom of your mind, let me just drop it. If love is at the basis of your communication, if that gives a win-win, you both win. Because you're not communicating because you're trying to enforce your ideas on somebody, your philosophies on somebody. You're communicating because you're trying to understand that person's point of view also. And that way both of you win. And you see, life goes on like that. If you argue, you can lose a friend. Okay? But
that's true.
if you can communicate, you gain a friend. Right? So that way, you know, it's always a win-win thing. And what you need in life to succeed is a network of friends.
Network of friends, network of people, association. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Triple A.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming around.
Thank you for having us.
I think we should have another one whereby we'll be able to talk about listening, effective listening within communication at workplace. Very, very well. I think we should even do that for next week. Okay. All right, till next week, that will come your way. I remain Ayodele Adebayo, Mr. Ideation. Keep watching Immaculate TV. God bless.